Can you guys decide on your techs? Welcome back to Top of the Deck, you guys. It's Dad's over here, and I'm actually in the lab today because I'm working on a new set of techs for a couple of decks that I'm working on. Red Eyes, Blue Eyes, all the legacy decks. I'm working on a little bit of pendulum stuff, yada yada yada. And it got me to thinking, why are some techs overrated and some techs underrated? So I wanted to go ahead and just compare a couple just as a new sort of segment, and we're going to call this the over-under. So we're going to go ahead and take one tech that's, in my opinion, a little bit overrated, and one tech that, in my opinion, is a little bit underrated. We're going to go ahead and compare and contrast them and then try at the end of it to decide which one is objectively better. For the deck we picked Blue Eyes White Dragon, because as you know, one of my personal favorite decks. We just got the Kaiba box. I'm in the middle of blinging mine out, and it's going to be looking really hype, but I'm still waiting on a couple things to come in the mail too, so it's going to be about a week or two on that. In the meantime, I thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and discuss a couple tech cards I have for it. So on the over side, we've got Brilliant Fusion. So if you don't know what that is, it's a continuous spell card, and what it does is you can go ahead and send some materials out of your deck to the graveyard, and you get to special summon Gem Knight monster from your deck, although its attack and defense points is zeroed out. Effects aren't negated, but the attack and defense points is zeroed out. So people like to use this in a few Blue Eyes variants. I've seen it in Invoked Blue Eyes especially before Master Rule 4 came out, when we were still pendulum summoning 9 from the extra deck and that sort of thing, which I thought was, you know, kind of cool. Now, the only problems I really have with the tech is it's a little pricey. It gives you dead draws. This is where the buzzword Garnet came from, because if you draw the Garnet, you can't use it. The ratios are wonky, and it's a continuous spell, and just something about it being a continuous spell kind of irks me, especially in, you know, Blue Eyes, where you want to murder everything, so you don't want to keep too many things on your board at the same time. Good thing about it is it's generic, so you can splash it in other things that aren't Blue Eyes. It's an extra normal summon. You can put whatever you want from your deck into the graveyard to set it up, just for other things like Return of the Dragon Lords and things like that. And you can just go ahead and you can get this off without using your first normal summon. It gets you an extra card for a Link summon, which I think is pretty cool. So there's that. On the other side of things, we're going to be looking at Mausoleum of White. Now, the thing about Mausoleum of White is it's a field spell, and if you don't know what that one does, is you can normal summon one Light Tuner monster in addition to your regular normal summon once per turn. And then also once per turn, you can target a monster on your side of the field, dump a monster, a normal dragon monster, out of your deck into the graveyard, and then you can go ahead and boost up that monster by 100 attack points times that level. So say, for example, you dump a Blue Eyes into the grave with this effect, well, you just jumped up your monster 800 attack points. So it can be helpful for an OTK, that sort of thing. And then the neat part about it is, if it explodes for whatever reason, goes to the graveyard, bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a burst stream of destruction. If you don't run Regeki and you're looking for a themed version of Regeki for the deck, hey, boom, it searches for that. Things I like about Mausoleum is, number one, it's in theme. Because it does actually work. It synergizes with other things in the Blue Eyes deck. It searches for another card in the Blue Eyes deck once you're done with it. Two, I mean, it does work with the Light Tuners, but it's any Light Tuner, so you can summon an Effect Veiler along with a White Stone, or you can summon a Sage, search your Maiden, and summon your Maiden at the same time too, so that opens up a door for another set of combos there. Also, the neat thing about it is you'll be able to get 2 monsters on the board for a quick Link 2 summon, if that's your sort of thing, so that's another option too. Another thing, it's a field spell, and you know, often field spells are overlooked. You use the terraforming, so it's a lot easier to search, and because it is a searchable thing, it makes it a lot more consistent. And the fourth thing is, you don't really need to run the last piece of it. You don't need to run like a Garnet card for it. You don't need to run Burst Stream of Destruction. It's helpful and it's searchable, but you know, if you draw the Burst Stream for whatever reason and you draw the Mausoleum, it's not a big deal. It doesn't end the game for you. Things I don't like about it are, you know, it's again a field spell, so it's kind of continuous, so I don't like to have that on the board at the same time too. You can run out of targets with your, you know, with your Blue Eyes pretty quickly too. And it doesn't do every dragon, which I think is kind of lame. With the Brilliant Fusion, you can get every dragon. Mausoleum doesn't get every dragon, which is a problem. And also, I don't really think Burst Stream is that great within of itself. I'd rather play Dark Hole, I'd rather play Regeki. If you don't have access to either of those two cards, you probably have access to Dark Hole, but if you don't have access to Regeki, Burst Stream actually can be a pretty neat little tech choice in there. Or it can be a second Regeki, so it's not a bad idea within of itself. I just usually don't find room for it when I'm done with the builds there, so that's a thing to consider. Now, if we're talking about viability, in the Blue Eyes deck specifically, I'm going to go ahead and give a point to Mausoleum because it's in theme and it helps to advance the strategy. Now, having the extra normal summon for Brilliant Fusion is good, but you also get the extra normal summon for Mausoleum. And your only normal summon in this deck is going to be level 1 tuner monsters and maybe King of D. So it doesn't really matter. If you're playing Alistair, you're playing Alistair, whatever, that's good stuff. But, you know, it's going to be the only other normal summon. Most of the time when you're normal summoning, you're going to be normal summoning a Sage and then whatever you search off the Sage to go ahead and get your combos there. So if we're talking combo start, it's the same sort of thing. What I do like about Mausoleum, it doesn't offer any dead draws, whereas Brilliant Fusion kind of offers a dead draw. If you draw into that Garnet, that's it, and if you dump the Garnet, you get that Brilliant Fusion wrecked, and then that's it. There's nothing else you can do with it. The Mausoleum also has the benefit of the attack increase. It's a field spell, so it's a little bit more out of the way. It doesn't take up your back row. Most of the time your opponent won't think about it, and if you do lose it, you at least get something for it. You get a pseudo Regeki. You're not going to play it, but you do get that, which I think is actually pretty handy, to be honest with you. When it comes down to it, I'd say that Mausoleum, the big problem with it is it requires you to have something in your hand to put some board presence on, whereas when you have Brilliant Fusion, it doesn't require you to have something in your hand. Dead draw Brilliant Fusion and you haven't gotten the Garnet, you can at least get a monster on the board and then dump something into the graveyard, whereas if you top deck Mausoleum, you put that on the board and that's pretty much about it. You can hope it gets destroyed and then you get a Burst Stream, then hopefully you get yourself a Blue Eyes next turn, or you can set something up, but these are highly specific scenarios. So if we're talking top decking potential, I'll give it a Brilliant Fusion. If we're talking consistency, I'll definitely give it to Mausoleum. At the end of the day, between the two of them, I'm going to go ahead and edge it out to Mausoleum. It's less expensive and obnoxious. It doesn't offer any dead draws, and in a deck like this, you already have so many dead draws, and it's not hyper consistent, especially when you start adding other text to it, like the Galaxy engine and the Invoked engine and things like that. It can kind of make some of those opening hands really nasty, and pure Blue Eyes on its own already has some nasty opening hands. It gives you a reason to run Maiden, and I think the combos are just as effective with the Mausoleum as it would be without the Brilliant Fusion. I'd say maybe the only difference is you don't have to clear, that's another thing about Mausoleum, you don't have to clear the board of a Seraphonite or anything like that before you go into your next place. You don't have to link summon, you can just go ahead and do whatever you gotta do. If we're talking over-under, I'm going to go ahead and give it to the under today. I'm going to say Mausoleum deserves it. Are they both good cards? Absolutely. And if we're talking objectively speaking, I'd say Brilliant Fusion because of its universality, and you can use it in other decks like Magnet Warriors, for example. You can use it in Dinos, that sort of thing, and then you're going to get some use out of it, whereas Mausoleum only works in Blue Eyes. It only works in, level 8 based Dragon decks, so that can kind of make it problematic. But if we're talking explicitly for Blue Eyes, I'm going to put Mausoleum over Brilliant Fusion today, and I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest up to you guys in the comment section below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Which one's the better card? Just go ahead and leave your comment below. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're right on the road to 200 subscribers. We're probably just about there now that we've put up the last video. But anyway, though, on that bombshell, Ace of Bats is signing out.